Why would anyone value something that is only code on a computer? That question is the doorway into Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a digital money system. It lets people send value across the internet without asking a bank, card company, or payment app to approve the transfer. Instead of one company running the ledger, thousands of computers around the world help check and record what happened. To understand Bitcoin, start with a ledger. A ledger is just a record of who owns what. Your bank has a ledger. A payment app has a ledger. Bitcoin also has a ledger, but it is public, shared, and copied across many independent computers. In a normal digital payment, a central company decides whether money moved. Bitcoin tries to replace that central cashier with rules that anyone can inspect. The network does not need to know your real name. It only needs to know whether a transaction follows the rules. Digital money has a hard problem. If a file can be copied, what stops someone from spending the same digital coin twice? Bitcoin was designed around this problem. It makes everyone agree on one shared history, so the first valid spin counts and later copies are rejected. Bitcoin groups transactions into blocks. Each block points back to the block before it, which creates a chain of history. That is why people use the word blockchain. It is not magic. It is a public record where each new page depends on the pages before it. If someone tries to edit an old block, the blocks after it no longer match. To fake the past, an attacker would need to redo a huge amount of computational work and catch up with the honest network. This is the basic security idea behind Bitcoin mining. Miners are computers competing to add the next block. They search for a special number that makes the block pass a difficult mathematical test. The work is hard to find, but easy for everyone else to verify. That makes cheating expensive and checking cheap. This system is called proof of work. It links the right to add blocks to real-world cost, mainly electricity, hardware, and time. Bitcoin uses this cost as a defense. To attack the record, you would need to spend enormous resources against a network that keeps working against you. Miners do not do this work for free. When a miner adds a valid block, the block can include newly created Bitcoin and transaction fees. This reward encourages miners to secure the network while also distributing new coins over time. Here is one of the biggest reasons people pay attention to Bitcoin. Its rules limit the total supply to about 21 million Bitcoin. No committee can simply vote to create millions more for convenience. The scarcity is built into the rules that Bitcoin users choose to enforce. New Bitcoin issuance also slows down over time. Roughly every 4 years, the new coin reward gets cut in half. This process is called a halving. It means Bitcoin starts with a known issuance schedule, instead of a central authority changing the supply whenever it wants. If this kind of explanation helps, consider subscribing. The goal here is not hype. It is to make new technology understandable so you can think clearly about it instead of just reacting to headlines. But scarcity alone does not create value. A drawing can be rare and still unwanted. Bitcoin has value only if people believe the network is useful, secure, transferable, and worth holding or accepting. Scarcity matters because it works together with demand, not because it replaces demand. This is why people sometimes call Bitcoin digital gold. Gold is valued partly because it is scarce, durable, recognizable, and hard to produce. Bitcoin is different because it is not physical, but the comparison points to a similar idea. It is a scarce asset that can move through a digital network. Owning Bitcoin does not mean a coin file sits inside your phone. The public ledger records spendable balances. Your wallet holds cryptographic keys that let you prove you are allowed to spend certain Bitcoin. The key is more like a powerful password than a physical object. A private key is secret. If someone else gets it, they can move your Bitcoin. If you lose it, there may be no customer support desk that can restore access. This is one reason Bitcoin gives users more control, but also more responsibility. To receive Bitcoin, you share an address. The address is like a destination on the network. It is not exactly your identity, and it is not the same as your private key. You can share an address to receive funds, but your private key should never be shared. When you send Bitcoin, your wallet creates a transaction and signs it with your private key. The transaction is broadcast to the network. Nodes check whether the signature is valid and whether the Bitcoin has already been spent. If it passes, it can be included in a block. Miners build blocks, but nodes enforce the rules. A node is a computer running Bitcoin software that checks blocks and transactions independently. If a miner creates coins from nowhere or breaks the rules, honest nodes reject that block. This keeps miners powerful, but not all powerful. Bitcoin works because many independent participants follow the same rule set. They do not need to trust one leader. They need to agree on which blocks are valid and which chain has the most accumulated work. Consensus is the process that keeps the ledger synchronized. Different people value Bitcoin for different reasons. Some value its scarcity. Some value its ability to move across borders. Some value the fact that no single company controls the ledger. Others see it as an experiment in open financial infrastructure. The point is that value comes from a mix of uses and beliefs. Money is useful when other people recognize it. A language works because many people understand it. A payment network works because many people can send, receive, store, and price things through it. Bitcoin becomes more useful when wallets, exchanges, merchants, developers, and users connect around the same system. Physical gold is heavy. Bank transfers can depend on business hours, intermediaries, and permission. Bitcoin can be moved by broadcasting a transaction to the internet. That does not make every transaction instant or cheap, but it does make Bitcoin highly portable compared with many physical stores of value. Bitcoin is also divisible. You do not need to own a whole Bitcoin to use it. Each Bitcoin can be divided into tiny units called satoshis. This matters because a scarce asset becomes more practical when it can be split into small pieces for different transaction sizes. Bitcoin's ledger is public. Anyone can inspect transactions, blocks, and supply rules. This transparency helps people verify the system instead of relying only on promises. At the same time, public does not mean perfectly private. Patterns on the ledger can sometimes be analyzed. A common misunderstanding is that Bitcoin is anonymous. It is better to call it pseudonymous. Addresses are not automatically real names, but transactions are publicly visible. If an address becomes linked to a person or company, its activity may be easier to trace than many beginners expect. Another misunderstanding is that mining energy is just accidental waste. The energy use is part of the security model. That does not mean everyone agrees it is worth the cost. It means Bitcoin deliberately trades energy consumption for a ledger that is expensive to rewrite. Bitcoin can be valuable and still be volatile. Its market price can move sharply because expectations, liquidity, regulation, speculation, and global events all affect demand. That is why Bitcoin should not be explained as a guaranteed path to wealth. It is a technology and asset with real risks. Bitcoin is not the same as money in a bank account. A bank account is a claim on a bank. Bitcoin is controlled through keys and settled on a public network. This difference is powerful, but it also changes the safety model. Mistakes can be harder to reverse. People often ask why another cryptocurrency cannot simply copy Bitcoin's code. Code can be copied, but the whole system cannot be copied so easily. Bitcoin's value also depends on its history, users, miners, nodes, liquidity, reputation, and the belief that its rules are difficult to change. Bitcoin rules can be updated, but not like an app controlled by one company. Changes require broad agreement from the people running and using the network. If a proposed change breaks what users value, they can refuse it. This social layer is part of Bitcoin's resilience. So why does Bitcoin have value? Not because it is shiny, not because a government declared it money. It has value because people coordinate around a scarce digital asset, secured by proof of work, transferable without a central operator, and governed by rules that anyone can verify. Bitcoin does not solve every financial problem. It does not remove price risk. It does not make users immune to scams. It does not automatically provide privacy. It does not guarantee future demand. Understanding Bitcoin means seeing both the breakthrough and the trade-offs clearly. At its core, Bitcoin is a way to keep a shared digital record without trusting one central bookkeeper. Its value comes from the network of people who believe that record is useful, the rules that limit supply, and the security that makes the history difficult to rewrite. If Bitcoin still feels strange, that is normal. It combines money, cryptography, economics, and computer networks into one idea. What part should we explain next? Wallets, mining, blockchain, or Bitcoin versus traditional money? Drop your question in the comments and suggest the next topic.